I'm Omli, and I'd like to share with you my system for memorizing information. Different classes in college present different challenges. Sometimes your task is to be creative and imaginative, but sometimes your task is simply to memorize information. This is often the case in intro classes. The goal in an intro class is to acquire new vocabulary, learn basic concepts, and so on. The goal is to memorize information. I'm going to teach you a system for memorizing information that worked best for me. To memorize information in a way that will allow you to save time, help you focus while studying, let you know when you're done studying so that you can move on to other tasks and do fun things, and allow you to go into quizzes and exams feeling more prepared and less anxious. And most importantly, the system will allow you to master the material so that you remember what you've learned for years or decades rather than minutes or hours. Just for fun, let's call this the Omli learning system. My system involves 5 steps. First, skim the material, including lectures and readings. Second, search for key information you need to learn. Third, create and print summary sheets and 2 study sheets. Fourth, complete your study sheets until you can complete your study sheets without hints. And fifth, skim the material to make sure you understand the big picture. I'll demonstrate the system using an example of an Intro to Psychology class. Let's say you're studying a chapter on psychodynamic theories of Freud, Erikson, and others. The first step in the system is to skim this textbook chapter and your corresponding lectures to identify key terms and the most important ideas, to get a quick big picture overview of the material. The second step is to identify the most important information that you'll focus on as you study. While searching, pay special attention to key terms that are in bold or presented off to the side of the margins in the textbook. Also pay special attention to the first sentences of each paragraph. You also want to look for lists. Lists often summarize important information, the 4 components of this, the 5 steps in this process, and so on. As you're skimming, use a highlighter on paper, or you might be able to use a highlighter feature in an e-text or PDF to identify key terms and ideas that you want to go back and master. The third step is to organize this information in a way that makes sense to you. Using the example of a chapter on psychodynamic theories, you might summarize key ideas about Freud and Erikson together. You might type out the keywords in bold and the definitions in normal typeface. You can do this however you want in a spreadsheet app like Microsoft Excel, Apple's Numbers, or Google Sheets, or you can create your study sheets in slideware apps like PowerPoint or Apple's Keynote. Once you have your summary sheets created, save that document and create your first study sheet by erasing the definitions. Save your study sheet as a new document, go back to the original summary sheet, and then create a second study sheet by erasing the keywords. Then, if you have access to a printer, print 1 copy of the full summary sheet and a few copies of each of the 2 study sheets where the keywords and definitions are erased. If you don't have access to a printer, you can create the study sheets entirely by hand. Once you have your study sheets created, you're well on your way to learning the material, because by skimming and exploring the material with the purpose of identifying key concepts, you've started to engage in higher order thinking about the material. Your brain is far more engaged than it would be just casually reading the chapter. Again, you're on a mission. You're not just wandering around. But once you've created your study sheets, you're ready to master the material, which leads us to the 4th and most important step, completing your study sheets until you don't need any hints. To get started, sit or stand at your desk, put your summary sheets with all the information in reach but not in direct view, and place your study sheets right in front of you. Then grab a pen or pencil and get started. Look at each keyword and try to write in the definition. When you get stuck, you can take a peek at your summary sheet and write the information on your study sheet. You're going to be filling out the same study sheet a few times, and each time you fill it out, you will need to look at your summary sheet less and less until you can complete the study sheet without peeking at the summary sheet. And notice that spelling and handwriting don't matter at all. As long as you know what you're writing, you are learning. It doesn't need to be legible to anyone else but you. The system is for you. Once you can do this, flip the script. Complete the study sheet that only has the definitions, the study sheet where the keywords are missing. Try to write in the keywords. If you get stuck, look at the summary sheet. And each time you do this, you'll need fewer and fewer hints. Then, once you can complete the study sheet both ways, you're ready for the final challenge. Start with a tablet or a completely blank piece of paper and write out the keywords and definitions. Once you're able to do this without any hints, you're almost done studying. The fifth and final step is to go back and skim the material, your textbook chapter and lecture notes, to make sure you understand how they fit into the big picture. Each of the concepts or facts on your lecture notes are the trees, the chapter and lecture notes are the forest. The last step will ensure you have a more complete understanding of the material and understand how all of the facts fit together in the big picture. Obviously, the system can be used to learn any subject matter where the goal is to memorize information. Here's an example of a summary sheet for a motor skills class with a chapter on physical and cognitive development. Put each set of facts together in a way that makes sense to you, like physical growth being one set, facts about sleeping being another, brain development in another place, and so on. Then remove the definitions and print your study sheets so that you can write them in. And once you've mastered that task, remove the keywords so that you can write them into the other study sheet. Then write everything on a blank piece of paper to confirm that you've mastered the material. And here is what the summary sheets and study sheets might look like for a chapter on infant reflexes, sensation and perception, and the development of vision and hearing. Actual studying may sound a little intense, but there are some pretty good reasons why actual, intentional, focused studying actually helps college students live more pleasant, relaxed, stress and anxiety-free lives. Pressure comes from not being prepared. Confidence comes from knowing that you are prepared. And peace of mind comes when you're able to confidently move on to other things without worrying if you spent enough time studying. Remember, the success of your studying should not be measured by how much time you spent studying, but by how much you learned while studying. Why spend more time than necessary doing something? If you complete the 5 steps I described above, you can feel confident that you're ready for the next exam on the material that you studied. And the more you practice this system, the easier it gets. I'll explain why this method works better than merely reading the textbook or using flashcards next time.